So we've talked a lot about these BPO partner relationships, and you have a very unique background for being on both sides of the fence. So I think this is a great line of conversation. What haven't we talked about in terms of the relationship with your BPO partners that you think is important for us to share on the podcast?
There's a few things. One thing that I want to mention is how do you make sure that a partnership retains or remains in a good shape, even though you're not on a growth path with your customer service side, because the BPO obviously, contact center obviously earns their money, earns with the scale. That's helping people a lot. On the flip side, if you're getting more efficient in your customer service, using technology, if you're using complex reasons, etc., that also leads into a situation where the partner has to accept that there's growth, or even during certain periods of shrinkage that will not be offset next season. And that's something that was difficult to manage, quite frankly, difficult to manage because if you're working in a very international environment where you try to provide native language support to your customers, even if they're from smaller markets, you're getting into an area where suddenly the size of the team is not determined by the number of contacts anymore, but the size of the team is determined by minimum coverage on the service. This is costly, and then you're trying to be innovative in how can we make sure we're still providing top-notch service, but on the other hand, we're not running these micro teams, where it's also very hard if you have attrition. If you have leads for any reason, it's very hard to maintain service on a good level. How do we make sure it's working well? One piece of technology that we're using is automated translation services, which usually either the customer or the agent redirected what's happening. Just everybody's using their own language. And this is how you merge teams into bigger units again, the benefit from the economy of scale again. So that's one of the things that really poses a challenge, creates a challenge. I think for every type of company that is not like thousands and thousands of agents, but a reasonable and overseeing number and on very granular markets.
One of the advantages of working with a BPO partner is the ability to scale up and down as needed. But to your point, you have to acknowledge that has an impact on their business and then their relationship with you. But honesty, and that's a part of the business, is in that relationship and just understanding that there's going to be ups and downs in the business. And if you've invested in that relationship up front, I can only imagine that those conversations are easier to have and it makes for a long-term relationship, which both sides want, right?
I don't know if I can say they're easier to have because I'm not having too much possibility for comparison there, at least not during the same period of time. So you're not handling different accounts at the same time. But definitely it's helping. So what you invested in, it's helping you, but your partner supports you in implementing new technology, even though that might be in contrary business interest. But it's something they know it's helping us to maintain the relationship. And it's also for us important. We want to maintain that relationship. So I'm making them part of that process. So again, it's working together, and it's maybe one of the lows that you go through, and at a different point, you go into the high end.